Welcome back, caustic men, to another 10-minute watch review. You know how this is going to go. No wrist check, no BS, just in-depth with this watch in 10 minutes or less. This is the Voyageur mechanical watch from Wolf Creek Watch Company. This is a new watch company, new model. And if this looks a little familiar, it does share some striking design similarities with the Hamilton Pioneer Pilot, that vintage reissue I showed you guys a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to give you a glance at these two watches side by side, not only so you could see the similarities, but so that you could see the size difference between the two. Let's get into the specifications on this watch. I'm looking at a case diameter of about 38.5, just under 38.5 millimeters, a lug to lug of 43.2, case height of 11.1, and a lug width right on 20 millimeters. This is powered by an ETA 2801 movement, the same base movement as the Pioneer Pilot. It does hack. You can see the second hand stops there, and it's a hand wind movement, so of course it hand winds as well. This is a bronze case. It's a CUSN 8 bronze case, pretty standard among bronze watches. This is highly corrosion resistant, marine grade bronze. So the case is brushed. It's fully brushed on all sides. The case front features a circular brushing, quite reflective. It's very satiny sort of feel to it that I really like, and is very in keeping with an outdoorsy field kind of watch like this is. This also has a slightly domed sapphire crystal with AR coating on the underside. I'm not sure how many layers of AR coating this has on it, but it is actually quite reflective. You can see that well in the studio lights. It's similar outside. I'll show you some pictures of that, but for whatever it's worth, the AR coating on this does not seem to mitigate a whole lot of glare. The crown is nicely proportioned to the rest of the case. Very deep serrations there make it easy to handle, easy to hand wind, easy to pull out and set the time. No issues there. We do have a signed crown. It's got that little wolf head logo on it, etched in pretty nicely there. I like that touch. Let's go in depth on this dial here. I'm not sure how well this is coming across on camera. I'll see if I can put some photos up, but the dial color is a dark green. It's quite a pleasing dark green. I think it fits very well with the color of the case and the logo, the train track minute markers, and so on. So on this dial, you do have a wolf's head logo, the Wolf Creek Watch Company logo in a brownish bronze color, Voyageur mechanical scrawled on the bottom, Swiss made down at the 6 o'clock. It does have that train track minute marker around the edge of the dial, much like the Hamilton Pioneer Pilot. I wish the minute markers were done with a little bit more contrast. It's in that same brownish bronzy color as the logo is in, and although it's well in keeping with the aesthetics of the watch, it's kind of hard to see, especially with the reflection that's coming off of the sapphire crystal. This is loomed. It contains BGW9 loom. You can usually tell that apart from the C3 Superluminova because the BGW9 has a whitish color in broad daylight. I really like the font on the Arabic numerals. Despite the sort of vintage-inspired case shape, the watch does have a very modern feel to it, to my eye, and I think the font of the numerals there goes a long way in giving you that kind of a feel. The Wolf Creek logo adds to that. It's a very stylized logo. I kind of dig it. I know some people are hot or cold about logos on the dial face. Some of them would rather see just the company name. I think this is kind of cool. It's well in keeping with the modern aesthetics of the dial. A pretty nondescript font on the scrawling down there at the bottom of the dial, Voyageur mechanical. Very tasteful, not intrusive at all on the dial, and that's at least partially owing to the dark color. It kind of does blend in with the dial quite a lot, but it's nice nonetheless. The handset is a sword style handset in a exaggerated, almost cartoonish style. As you can see, it balloons out there toward the edges. Another sort of modern feature with that to separate it from its more vintage counterpart. The hour hand touches all the hour markers, the minute hand touches all the minute markers, and the second hand reaches a little bit farther out than that minute hand. You guys know I like that. Sometimes when looking at this watch, I kind of feel like the hands are a little bit oversized relative to the rest of the features on the dial, but it does add to the legibility of this watch. This watch is very easy to read. And I guess it kind of has to be because it does have a little bit of a reflection problem as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the white seconds hand is fully loomed. We're going to take a look at that in a second, but I really like the white aesthetics of that. Like I say, high contrast between that and the rest of the dial really works well for me. Okay, so here's our loom shot. Just anecdotally, the BGW9 does seem to glow a little bit dimmer than C3 Superluminova. But you know, I mean, this gets the job done. It's nothing spectacular, but the loom is gonna work for you. And that fully loomed seconds hand, I think that's kind of cool. Sometimes you get a little pip on the end of the seconds hand. Sometimes you get no loom on the seconds at all. But this to me looks pretty cool. This watch comes on a NATO strap. There is an option for a leather strap on the Wolf Creek website for a little bit more money. It definitely doesn't meet the standards of the Hamilton NATO strap, but it's not a bad one. It definitely does not feel like one of those cheap $8 or $9 NATOs you can find on eBay or Amazon. At first, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get bronze hardware to match the case, but I think the black has kind of grown on me. It definitely fits in with the overall aesthetics of the watch. It has a signed Wolf Creek buckle there. See if I can give you a good look at that. It's shallowly etched in the buckle there. Here is that 316L stainless steel case back. It is a screw back case, and as you can see, the case, despite its chunky looks here, it is recessed as it goes in toward that screw back case to assist in that sitting a little bit flatter on the wrist. There is some scrawling across the back. Wolf Creek Watch Co., the name of the company. Sapphire crystal, 100 meters water resistant. So the overall aesthetics of this watch are very in keeping with the outdoors motif. You definitely feel like you could be going on some voyages with this watch. It's hefty. It does have some weight to it. It feels like it could take a little bit of a beating, much more so than I think the Hamilton Pioneer Pilot, which is very light and almost fragile feeling. For my part, I like my watches to have a little bit of heft to them. I can appreciate the lightness of a watch, but I prefer something that I know is sitting on my wrist and that I feel could take a little bit of a bash here and there in case some kind of an accident happens or I am just my usual clumsy self. Okay, let's take a look at this watch on the wrist. As you guys know, I have a 6-inch wrist. It's not a large wrist, but nonetheless, this watch doesn't feel too big to me. It definitely has a wrist presence, so I think this is going to be suitable for larger wrists than mine. But for us small-wristed folks, we can play with this watch. This is not going to cause very many problems. As you can see, the lugs do not overhang. The case height is really not that bad at all. It's 11 millimeters. It's going to fit pretty snug, even with the double underpass of the NATO strap there. It does make it sit a little bit higher on the wrist, but I don't think it's too high at all. I think it fits quite snugly. There are more than enough adjustment indexes to get this as small as you want, and they are circular indexes, so if you really needed to, you could punch another hole in this with like a leather punch or something like that. I've done that before. So we're sitting at about +8, +9 seconds a day, very good amplitude, very good beat error, 28,800 vibrations per hour, so it's nice and smooth on that second hand sweep. Exactly what you'd expect from an ETA movement, so this is hitting really nicely. Okay, so this isn't the most original design scheme in the world. Obviously it has a lot of similarities to the Pioneer Pilot. But one of the things that I appreciate about it is that everything from the dial color to the handset to the NATO strap is all well integrated with the bronze case. Sometimes some designers, it seems like they'll design a watch and just kind of decide to throw it in a bronze case because that's popular right now. I think Zelos is one of the worst offenders with that, but in the case of the Wolf Creek bronze watch, I think it fits really nicely. Well done on that. Okay, that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time for another 10-minute watch review.